time is the one resource I will never get back.
Had to set up the masculine walls of the riverbed so that the water could flow down the river.
The only way to learn is to do it. And sometimes if there's like trust issues in the past or personality things in the past, walk the walk, you don't just talk the talk, so to speak. A deep-rooted fear around being seen, around being heard, around expressing. Everything that makes us entrepreneurs makes us awful at maintaining wealth. It's actually a totally different mindset. Every time I've ever chosen a mentor, which is a very like gut instinct, I know right away, yep, I'm in. So I see a lot of business owners, when they get to a level of success, they'll start breaking shit just so they can fix it. I think the number one skill in order to reach that, first $1 million mark, first big goal for yours.
What's up, savages, and welcome to our first ever episode on the live Business Savage podcast. I'm honored to have each and every one of you here this evening for our Awaken the Leader panel. I have two friends of mine with me this evening, Michelle and Emily, that I will introduce in just a moment. And as each and every one of you know, I have shared with all of you throughout this journey, success leaves clues. And so tonight I am honored to have two incredible women beside me to call friends, but also very inspiring women in business that have a lot of clues to leave for y'all. And so this evening, they're going to be leaving business tips. They're going to be leaving mom tips. They're going to be leaving mindset tips. They're going to be leaving money mastery tips, maybe a little plant medicine tips, and everything in between. To my left, I have Michelle Dillard. Michelle is a master neurolinguistic practitioner, certified hypnotherapist, and life coach who transformed her life from poverty to achieving millionaire status within a year. Through mindset and subconscious programming, she's passionate about helping entrepreneurs unlock their full potential, believing that when more good people rise to wealth, everybody benefits. Michelle guides entrepreneurs in stepping into new identities and making a meaningful impact. Together with her husband, she leads transformative group coaching program, Richer Every Day, focused on generating passive income, and Audience Factory, which helps individuals build their online platforms and grow their email lists while getting paid in the process. As a dedicated humanitarian, Michelle has led initiatives in third world countries and understands the importance of creating freedom and independence. Her mission is to empower others to thrive, knowing that their success can then ripple out and inspire positive change in the world. Please join me in welcoming Michelle. And next to the lovely Michelle, we have Emily Hirsh. Emily is a leading digital marketing strategist, CEO, and founder of Embodied Marketing. Embodied Marketing works with influencers and game-changing entrepreneurs to grow their businesses and generate revenue using cutting-edge marketing strategies and paid ads. Emily has assembled a top-level team of 25-plus strategists, copywriters, graphic designers, and marketers who help remove overwhelm and allow entrepreneurs to stay in their zone of power. Through her embodied marketing process, Emily and her team continue to launch million-dollar campaigns and generate hundreds of thousands in ROI for her clients every single month. They've managed over $35 million in ad spend and generate over $132 million in revenue for their clients. Please join me in welcoming Emily. All right, ladies, I'm going to kick this off with a question that I'll have both of you answer. And then I figure we can just tackle this as we go on this journey. So creating a $1 million empire is an incredible accomplishment. It is one that I think everyone in this room is probably in business to create. You have that aspiration in mind. And so I would love to hear some of the key elements that you feel like are so important and integral that led you to that thing. You gonna go? Sure. let me think. Yeah. Is it working? Yeah, it is. I think I'm going to talk really close. Okay. I think the most important one is the unwavering commitment
to just make it happen, like for sure. And thinking about my journey, like I didn't, when I started, it wasn't like, here's my entire plan and I'm going to have $1 million business. It was like, what's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and just really having that commitment to do whatever it takes. And I see that in a lot of clients at all different levels. It's like, that's the one thing that guarantees you'll be successful and build the $1 million company. It's just the commitment. Like, I won't accept anything less. And do you want to keep going?
Strategy. You got more. We'll take more.
And there's lots, obviously, that goes into it. And then on the marketing side is definitely the deep understanding of your ideal customer is what starts all of your success in your business. And I think when I work with clients, it's one thing that almost every single time, even the successful business owners, that we come back to deepening that understanding of their ideal customer, because everything comes from that emotional connection to your ideal customer, and your entire business and marketing and your offer and everything you do is driven by that. And so I think that's extremely important to not just do once, but to constantly have that connection and strategy around serving your ideal customer and the emotional connection. Yeah.
Well, I love that. That's a great share. Yes, I agree with everything that you said. The ability to step into the unknown consistently every single day and deal with failure as the necessity to get to success. So the biggest thing that I think that trips people up is that they run into a roadblock and they don't push through it because A, they've never done it before, or B, because they have some failure around it. And once we get the mindset that failure is the path, like as a kid, it's failure after failure after failure, but eventually we learn to walk. Eventually we learn how to ride the bike. But when we're an adult, we forget that failure is part of the process. And then because we've had a business in the past that fails, then we hold that against ourselves. And it's like this resistance band, those like runners with a resistance band holding the back. Well, the unconscious failures of the past will hold you back unless you can reframe it as a success. And so if we look back, and if our relationship with failure is to see what we learned through the process, how much stronger we became through the process, all of the assets, attributes, and skills that we learned along that journey, instead of focusing on the perceived failure, then it's empowering us to take the next steps. So it's really reframing with everything that you do, at every misstep or misdirection, or you try something, that can be ammo. That can be fuel to doing the next thing. But what the trap that I see is that a lot of people don't see that and capitalize on that. Instead, it's something that holds them back. So having a good mindset around everything that you've ever tried and continuing to have the fortitude to move forward is, I think, the number one skill in order to reach that, first $1 million mark, first big goal for yourself and your business.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about team and building a team. And I feel like that's a good segue from what you just finished talking about, because both of you have built phenomenal teams. And we all know that building an empire takes more than one person. And every single woman at this table is in a process where we're trying to scale. And so whether that means we're trying to figure out their zone of genius so that they can empower other people to come into theirs, or setting up the right systems and automations in their business to take that off of their plate. Like, what was that process like for you? What was it like letting go of the control of being like, nope, I'm the only one that can do it and no one else is going to do it right, but yet we know we need people? What's that process like?
Why? Do you want to answer this one first, or you go ahead? It's definitely my shining example of what it's like to build a team. And I actually look up to Emily quite a bit in this department. I help a lot of entrepreneurs manage that mindset shift from the do-it-yourself type of personality to somebody who can really learn to trust and learn to manage expectations and delegate. There's a when you're bootstrapping your business, you get used to doing all the roles. You get used to doing every single thing. And that's great. And you need to, for a little while, you need to have an understanding of what all the parts are. But there becomes a point where you have to delegate. Otherwise, it's just going to tank your whole system. You're going to get into burnout. So there's a very vital part that you've got to learn to offload stuff. And sometimes if there's like trust issues in the past or personality things in the past, sometimes it'll come up through your team. And so you got to like work through those things and understand what is really preventing you from delegating, and just being really, really aware of what's coming up through that process. It's all clues, and it'll come up. It'll definitely come up, especially if you're new to building a team. And recognize and realize that it's all a healing process as well, because we can't heal wounds that happen in community without community. And so that's going to be an area where some stuff may come up. And it's always like a clue. Like, I get excited every time I get triggered. So I'm like, oh, I just found a new like level to step up. You know what I mean? I'm not trusting. I don't think this person is going to do it as good as I can. Okay, there's something for me to work on here, you know? So I would love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, to answer the question of what is it like, it's messy, especially in the beginning. I am a young entrepreneur, so I was like 22 and hiring people and older than me, and I had no idea what I was doing. But hit a point where I was like, either this is as big as my business is going to get, and I'm going to work 10-hour days, or I've got to hire some help. And I did it extremely messy. Like, I've learned, it was the most beautiful example of like, okay, do that. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try that. Okay, learn from that. But after now about 7 years growing my team and 25-ish employees, I've learned a lot. And I think the only way to learn is to do it, because everybody has different backgrounds in their leadership, and maybe you have managed, maybe you haven't before, and you're going to figure it out as you go. But someone asked me the other day, is it worth it having a team and having to handle all the people management? Because some weeks, that's all I do. Between clients and team is like, everybody's got their stuff. And so you're constantly just working through that. But hands down, 100%, is it worth it? Because I can go on a vacation for a month and my business runs without me. And so it's the most rewarding thing, not just that freedom, but also what you're able to do with a team is 100 times more powerful than what you could do on your own. I've also learned to hire people who are better than me. Like, that was a concept that I learned over time of like, wait, I don't have to actually train someone how to do every single thing. What if I just hire someone who has more experience? And I still go through that. I recently just brought on someone, the very head of our ads team. And I was like, I know exactly who I want. She's got to have corporate operation experience, like everything I do not have. Right. And come in and be able to run my department, because there were things that I was falling short in, and I found that. So you can also find people who already know how to do what you need to hand off. And I think in the beginning, my advice would be finding the list of things that would either bring you back the most amount of time, or you hate doing and you already are terrible at it. Because I see a lot of times people try to like write their copy and do their tech and build their funnels and manage emails, and it takes them 3 times as long as it would take a not even expensive VA. And I have someone I was just coaching the other day who was afraid of letting go of the control. And I said, what if you hired someone, you actually had a better output, because now you are getting to do the things you're good at and you have more energy and capacity. So maybe it actually will be better. And I think I see that happen a lot after you work out the kinks and you learn how to delegate. But it really isn't as hard as I think people make it seem. And it can be messy, but it's messy for everybody. I mean, there's no team management that's perfect. Even on my team, it's still messy. Like, we still have rough months, and that's just the reality of leadership.
I want to touch on the buy back your time element that you talked about for a second. Dan Martell has a book called Buy Back Your Time. Has anyone read it? Anyone read Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time? Have you guys read it? Yeah. And so I think some of the first places to start and really identify with that are like, what are the elements that are
costing you the most, not necessarily taking the most time, maybe, but also costing you the most. And so what are some of those key indicators for women at this level to realize, oh, maybe that's not taking the most amount of time, but it's actually costing me the most?
So I think that as entrepreneurs, we have three main resources. We have time, we have money, and we have energy. Time is the one thing we cannot get back. Our energy ebbs and flows, right? We can make more energy and then our energy gets strained. Money, we can make it, we can send it, right? So when I started looking at things this way of like, time is the one resource I will never get back. And I've got kids right now and I don't want to miss these years.
Yeah.
So what I do is I actually have a process where I'll have a note open on my computer and I'll just become really aware of what the things are, the activities that are draining my energy and taking my time. Because if I have more energy, if I do something that's like, ooh, I feel this little like uptick of energy, like, oh, I just had an awesome coaching call. I feel like I can like do all these other things now because I've got this like life energy surge. Well, that fuels me. So it's like, what are my life fueling activities? And what are my life draining activities? And those are the things that I am not going to delegate my time to or designate my time to at all. It's not worth my energy and it's not worth my time. So that I have to use the resource of money to get back my energy and time. That's not at all.
Yeah, I think constantly looking at how we're spending our time is a really good exercise. And doing something like a time study, maybe spending a week of your time and actually writing down what you're doing is a fast way to be like, oh, that's something that I could delegate. And so if you're looking to hire the first person, the steps I would take is first kind of do an inventory of how you're spending your time. Then use that to get clear on exactly what you could pass to somebody else. And I mean, that's a lesson that I learned, is being very clear on exactly what you want someone to do before you hire them. Because bringing someone into chaos and being like, I don't know, just take something from my plate, like it's never going to work out. But like 100% I did that. My first hire, I was like, yes, help me, please, I'm dying. But now, I mean, we actually over the years have greatly slowed down our hiring process to be very intentional with like, this is the role, this is the outcomes we expect. I mean, it's very much like marketing. Here's the ideal avatar of the person that I want to bring in. And so slowing that down and bringing in the right people will save you a lot of headache in the long run. So being extremely clear on exactly the tactical things you want someone to do, but also the results that would equal. Like, if I bring this person on and I invest, 10 hours a week at this amount, what does that equal a win for me? What's the results? Like, I'm going to get back this much time. They're going to manage this many emails, so that you're super clear and then you're setting that person up for success.
Amazing. The last thing that we'll touch on with this one, suggestions on where to find them. Like, how do you, so we can get crystal clear on what they're going to do. We can get crystal clear on we want a growth mindset. I can visualize this person. I can embody how great my life's going to be when they're in my life. How do we find them?
There you go. You can use sites like Indeed and job posting sites, which can be great. I think some of the best places to find people are in communities where they're going to be hanging out. So I always go to my community now when we hire as like my top choice. So I'll send out an email, a social post, and be like, we're hiring for these roles, because people already in my community are usually great hires. But if you don't have that, other entrepreneurs communities or Facebook groups, even searching on Instagram, like for posts that maybe a VA might be commenting on and looking for VAs, but finding people in communities that are aligned with your business and your industry, it's usually an advantage to find someone who has experience in that industry. So then if you go in communities within that industry, you can usually find the support. And as you grow your business, your community is a great place to find talent as well.
Amazing. Michelle, this question is for you.
When it comes to money, why is it so difficult for people to maintain wealth after they have actually made it?
So entrepreneurs are a special breed. We are a special breed. We look at safety and security and we go, fuck that. Right? We go, let's just do it ourselves, right? So we're risk takers. We are massive risk takers. We're okay with a challenge. In fact, most of us probably love it, right?
Hell yeah.
So everything that makes us entrepreneurs makes us awful at maintaining wealth. It's actually a totally different mindset. So everything that it takes, all of the skills and like the money management, the risk taking, the quick starting, it's the opposite of managing and maintaining wealth, right? You've got to think really long term, make decisions and hold it for 10, 15, 20 years, right? Like these investments, instead of quick decision making, you've got to have long methodical thinking. And, thinking over that long of time without just like, the market's going to go up and down. Well, you don't do knee-jerk reactions. It's a totally different mentality. So what it takes to create money is a different mindset than what it takes to have lasting wealth. And so when a lot of the times what I see is entrepreneurs like doing this, what I call cycling. They have these big launches, they get the company to a level of success and running things smoothly. And then guess what? That entrepreneur is still that entrepreneur. They haven't learned how to switch into a different mode yet. So what do? That all that peace and stillness and a team working for them and free time. Entrepreneurs aren't used to free time. I better blow that business up. I better make some problems so that I can fix them, so that I can go back to my regular way of operating. And so that's the real thing. Like Emily is a really great example of this, of somebody who's done it really well, where she's built.
I thought you were going to say who breaks the shit.
I'm sure you have studies where you have, we all do, but where you're actually really consciously moving through this process of slowing down and being able to take time away. A lot of entrepreneurs don't necessarily do that, and that prevents them from having the sustained success and sustained wealth. Anything to add to that?
Go ahead. Yeah. No, she's good. She answered that. I don't have anything to add. I agree 100%. Double click on that one. Beautiful. I want to change gears a little bit because I want to talk about one thing that we have a lot in common. But one thing that we definitely have in common that I know not everyone has the same beliefs. And it is the heartbeat, it is the foundation, it is the core essence of what we believe in and who we are and how we live our lives and raise our families and run our businesses. And that is our faith and our relationship with God. And so I would love to talk about your relationship with God and how that plays a role in your business and how that plays a role in your life and anything that you feel compelled to share.
It's been a journey. It's been a total journey for me. Do you want to share?
You go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, the hot mic.
Also, I will take you on a story.
Go. Let's go.
Growing up, I was in a very religious family, and that actually left a really bad taste in my mouth. And so it took me a while to really come back around to faith, And so I just want to reframe this in a way where it might be a little bit more open for people. I don't know where everyone's at when it comes to this subject, but I always just think of like a higher power. Just something beyond us. Is there some design to all of this other than just by chance, right? Like, to me, I believe that wholeheartedly. And that's where I started. That's really where I started. It's like, okay, there's some intelligence here, So I started with that. And then I really started learning about metaphysics and quantum theory and all these different things and like learning the science. And the more I dove down that path of learning about science, the more it, to me, proved God. And so I had this full circle journey back to where I started, actually, which was, I created a new relationship with Jesus. And to me, that took a little while. So that every single part of that path was important and I needed it. And I'm really conscious that in some circles, there's like a right and a wrong, and we do things this way and we do things that way. And I just say that wherever somebody is at is perfect because that's what they need to learn at that moment in time. And maybe that'll open a door to the next step because if someone told me to think a certain way, I would have been like, oh, that's not,
Yeah.
But really going within, like I've always been a huge fan of Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau, and like just the transcendentalism of knowing that like you should know it to be true for you inside. I believe that we all have the truth inside, and when we check in, our bodies will tell us really that we are these vessels that are connected, and that when we check into our bodies, we know what the truth is. Why do you think everything's starting to get us so disconnected from our body, and our food is poison, and our water's poison, and all this stuff? It's so that we can't discern what the truth is, right? And then we got to read it for something external instead of going into it. And I started doing this with the small stuff. I made a commitment to give my life over to the higher power and to be a vessel, to be of service. And then I realized that even in the small things, it's not up to me. When I get stressed out about my day, it's not up to me. Like, I get to actually go, okay, God, this is what I got going on my to-do list. These are the things I want to do. These are the things I don't want to do. Like, it sure would be cool to have clarity on what I need to do now. So the small things, like my to-do list, I give it up. The big things, of course, I give up. But it's a constant relationship, and I really do, to the point where I no longer put my purse on my passenger seat, because I'm actually envisioning like my sidekick, like business coach, always with me, always ride or die, like my relationship in my passenger seat. Like I actually envision it. So that I probably people who are passing me think I'm crazy, because I'm like full on talking to myself, and sometimes I'm laughing, sometimes I'm crying. But I always say clarity. I always get clarity in just the heart posture of how can I be of service? If I'm walking into something, how can I be of service? What I find is most of the worries, most of the stress, most of the drama is all because I'm focused on me. I'm actually not focused on other people. And when I connect with God and get my heart postured on serving other people, then all the stress goes away. All the worrying about what am I going to wear? What am I going to look like? All this stuff. I don't care anymore. And then I'm operating from the heart power, which is like, just for me, infinite energy. So that's kind of my process in my relationship, is I bring him in the small stuff and I give up everything to him. I just ask for clarity constantly.
So that was, so beautiful. For me, it's also pretty recent experience, and I didn't grow up in a religious family and was very turned off by the like right or wrong of religion. And so that caused me to just be like, oh no, push it away. And I'm someone, as I think a lot of entrepreneurs can relate with, who wanted to and has worked through wanting to control everything and really struggling to surrender. And so the last several years has been a journey for me of learning what it means to surrender. And I realized through that I can't surrender without trust and faith, because without that, you're just like crossing your fingers, right? And that's what was stopping me from surrendering. So that was when I really started, through mentors and experiences, realizing, and what I believe is God, the creator, is within us. And that's what instantly was like, okay, that makes so much more sense than this outside person that's telling us, heaven or hell, if you do something good or bad. That never resonated with me. But the truth is within. I just got that tattooed on my back in Costa Rica.
What else happened in Costa Rica?
And I have a mentor who says that she believes that the single wound that all of humanity is healing is separation from Creator, and that everything comes back to that. And that's basically where I'm at with it. And from business, though, it has been the most beautiful experience, because I can truly surrender now. The moments that I'd be like, the cash, and I have to make this much, and it has to happen this way, I just don't have those anymore. I'll just be like, please give me clarity, God. Or I'm overwhelmed, but I trust you. I trust that I'm in this situation, or this is happening, or this team member is leaving, or whatever it is, because there's millions of things that come up in business.
Sure.
I just trust. And I truly do not think that I could have the business that I have and continue to move up the level that I do without that trust, because otherwise you're holding it all yourself, which is impossible. So it's a very recent journey. I don't feel like I can teach on it or speak to anything than just my journey, but it's also been a really beautiful experience with my kids. Also with this mentor, one thing that I realized through an experience is how much in our society we create parents to play the role of God, which humans can't do that. Humans are going to fuck up. And so when I think about fostering the connection for my kids to something higher and that infinite love, it takes the pressure off of a parent to be completely perfect all the time. And I think we can go back to being young kids and look at, we seek God in our parents, and then they couldn't do it because they're human. And so that's been a beautiful realization too, as a parent, to be like, obviously, yes, I want to be the best parent for my kids, but I'm not going to be perfect. And can I foster that connection for them into something so much bigger?
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Thanks, dear.
You both touched on this. I didn't plan on asking this, but I feel called to. You both touched on having mentors and coaches. And I know at each level there's, more to learn. And you hit a level and then it's like, okay, I need someone else who can help me get to that next level. And I think that part of, we're talking tonight about leadership, and this retreat is about wild women is stepping into our power. And I think one of the pieces of being a leader is there's such an evolution and a journey that you go through, like the women that you both are right now, the woman that I am, the woman that all these women are, that we've been on a freaking journey to get here, right? To get to who you are today. And there's people that have helped shape that for you, but there's also a lot of fucking work that the both of you have done to get to the woman that you are today, right? You walk the walk, you don't just talk the talk, so to speak. And so I would love to talk about the role of how important mentors have been in your journey and what it's like for you to evolve into the leader that you are trying to become. And now you're both mentors for others.
Yeah, I mean, mentorship has played a huge part in my journey. And I've never been afraid to hire mentors. I think that's something I've done from the very beginning. The second I knew, I don't know how to do this. I need to find somebody who can tell me what to do so then I can implement that. And over the years, the mentorship has shifted, honestly, from about business to, I would say now, pretty much all the mentors I hire to work on myself. And I figure out the business stuff after that. And I think having people who you're inspired by, have similar values to you, and then have done the things that you want to do is how I look for my mentors. I would say that every time I've ever chosen a mentor, which really has been more deep work with a few than a large volume of mentors, it's a very gut instinct. I know right away. Yep, I'm in. And I always have somebody that I'm working with. And then the other thing is, my friend group that I choose to be around, I feel like Michelle is somebody that we hang out and I get mentorship from her and we support each other. So it doesn't always have to be a paid coach or mentor. I think those are great. And then it's also who's everybody you're surrounding yourself with. What are the rooms that you're putting yourself in? And are they people that inspire you and make you think differently and hold you accountable? I think that's a huge one. I want to be in conversation with someone who's going to be like, well, let's back up. Why don't we talk about that? And Michelle is 100% that person. She did it to me over there. She's like, wait a second. So I think having people that are willing to hold you accountable and ask the right questions. Yeah. And then also the people who are crafts, that have their craft and their gift. All my mentors that I can think of right now that I work with are so gifted in what they do, and I'm so inspired by that, and I get so much out of learning from them through that. Okay. I love what you shared. You're so right. Like, our immediate circle is our first mentors. And, you know, if we looked at it as these roles are really important, these people are going to influence the way that I think, which then influences the way that I act and show up and the person that I become, we're going to guard that space a little bit better. Right? And so I like to think of like my inner circle are my ride or dies, and also they're the people I also want to grow into. If I'm lucky enough to have friends like these two, like I targeted them.
Yes, I did. I love being pursued.
I was like, these women are freaking bosses. And I want them in my inner circle. Like, I want to be able to hang out with them. And there's so much that I can offer and give them a value. And there's so much that we can grow together. Right? So that, you know, I forget how many people it is, but there's only so much time you can spend with the people around you. So if they're not adding fuel to you, then they're actually brakes. They're holding you back. And you can release them with love. You can just gently move them to the outer rim, the perimeter, but just be cautious and be aware of who's influencing your thoughts and who's influencing your behaviors, because that's everything. And that's the place to guard. Everything stems from the way that you think. So surround yourself with people who inspire you to think bigger, to think differently, to challenge your own thinking. And then with hiring mentors, make sure you don't have any three-legged stools. By this, I mean, look for balance. Does this person truly have the life that I want to have? Or is this person a complete workaholic who's crushing their health? Right? We got to look for these things because we're going to start being influenced by the way that they think. Do they truly model the life that you want to live? If they don't, maybe find another one, right? You want to look for people who you want to be like. You're like literally like, man, I want to be that person. I want to grow into that person. That person's got it. They've got the relationship. They've got the this. They've got the that, right? Now, you can be looking for someone for a specific skill, and you can go all in like, I want to learn copywriting. I'm going to go all in on copywriting. Well, then it's not so important that they have all the other attributes of life, right? But if you're looking for like a life coach, you want to look for someone who has a little bit of balance, because they're going to have a massive influence on what you bring into your life.
Beautiful. This question is for you. And Mish, you're more than welcome to answer as well if you would like to. But specifically, I know that you and I had a very similar journey when it comes to the masculine and the feminine energy. And I think there's probably maybe 5 or 6 women I know for sure at this table who can resonate with that story. And, you know, they've all heard my story, and most of the podcast listeners have heard mine. So I would love to hear your journey, because you come from a traditional armors on and taking that off and really stepping into that feminine goddess inside of you. And that's when you really found like true success and fulfillment. Like, what was that journey like for you? What were some things and strategies that helped you remove that armor, so to speak?
Yeah, so I'm going to tell a quick funny story that I told you guys. So this is also a very recent journey. It's been about 1 year ago. I signed up for a retreat, and I had put on my to-do list for the year that I was going to do ayahuasca. Step 1, don't put that on your to-do list. And so I knew this girl who I knew had facilitated it, and she was, you know, recommended. I see that she launches a retreat actually called the Wild Woman Retreat. I didn't read the sales page, and I was like, okay, I'll sign up. Okay, I think I signed up for an ayahuasca retreat. Okay, it's 2 weeks before the retreat, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure we're supposed to do a diet. And no one's told me to do a diet, so what's going on? So I go in the WhatsApp chat group, and I'm like, are we supposed to do a diet? And she's like, no. And it took me like a day, and then I was like, I think something's wrong. What did I sign up for? And I go, and so I message her, and she's probably like, this lady, like, where did she get this? She's like, no, you signed up for the Wild Woman Retreat. I'm like, what the fuck's the Wild Woman Retreat? So it wasn't an ayahuasca retreat. And Michelle knew me then. Like, it was everything I never would have done that I signed up for. Like, pick a goddess and dress like them each day. Sensual goddess and dark feminine. And I was like, can I just buy a shirt that says sensual goddess? Like can I get the literal? So I go to this retreat and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And then they end up, they're probably like, why is this girl asking about a diet? And what's that? So I find out, I think it was like a week before I go, that it's not ayahuasca. And I'm like having to actually process the fact that I'm not going to do ayahuasca because I was like ready to go. So I show up to the retreat with my outfits and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go all in. Like I paid for this retreat, I don't know any of these girls. And you're sharing a room in Costa Rica. Also would never have done that. Sharing a bed with another girl. Okay. I would not have done that. And then it's like an open shower in Costa Rica. Like, oh my God. And so I played all out. And I mean, we had to like dance in front of the group in our sensual goddess outfit. It was just clearly the universe and God guiding me there. And an experience where it cracked me open because I had no choice. I was like, all right. So that was my kind of first like introduction into, okay, I'm starting to understand what it means. A lot of the workshops and things that we had there were about the feminine energy. And people would say that to me before, and I'm like, okay, can you give me the list, the to-do list? Like, how do I, like, give me the actionable plan? I used to be so frustrated about the feminine because I'm like, what does it mean? Like, what do I do to be feminine? Like, it makes no sense. And so there's no logical way to explain it because it's your body, it's feeling, it's embodied. So that was my funny story. Coming back from that retreat, it completely changed me. One of the things that we did there was a sacred rage session, which was super, super powerful. And then the dancing and all that was super powerful. But I came home and I'll tell you the thing, I had to use the masculine to implement the feminine so I could bring it into my daily life. And so what I did when I came home is I blocked an hour on my calendar and it was to do nothing and to tap into that feminine energy, which is the ease and the creativity and really connecting back to my body. And so I had to, for a while, use like a structure to bring that into my life. And now it's so easy. And now I'm like, this is what I need. And I'm feeling this and I'm very connected to it. Now, the masculine will always be my gift. I learned to be very, very grateful for that side of me and realizing it's not obviously one or the other. And I think some people have the gift of easily tapping into one more than the other. And so I will always be easily able to access my masculine. And I still, I do CrossFit and I still do a lot of things that are in that energy, but I have learned to tune into my body and listen and truly know what that means and understand that it doesn't come from here in your brain and the logic, and there isn't a manual for it. And ultimately in my business, what that has done is I understand what it means to operate business from ease now. And before, I could push through anything. It's like, yeah, we need to make that happen. We'll grind it out. We'll force it. And that doesn't exist anymore for me. When there is a lot of force and pushing, I know that's an opportunity to pause and evaluate and bring back the ease. Now, what I say is ease doesn't mean easy. I think people really mistake that feminine energy and the desire to have ease in their business is like, it's just going to be easy and I'm going to sit around and just, I don't know, lay in my sensual goddess outfit and it's going to be great. Like, you still need the masculine, you still need the structure, you still have to implement, but understanding when there is force and resistance that is actually a gift to pause and reevaluate. And that's probably the biggest difference. That and having the trust and the ability to surrender, and also learning and truly embodying that the answer is always within in your business. And that took me a while to learn how to listen to that.
Yeah.
Like I used to do somatic sessions where they'd be like, what are you feeling? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I'd overthink, like, is it my head, and my heart? And now it's instant. I can tune into that. But it took time. It took daily intentional effort. And I think what drew me to it was knowing that I had to do this in order to continue to grow, because it wasn't sustainable.
Wayne, then. One thing that I want to add to that, because I think like this culture of, masculine, feminine, we hear a lot now, like it's in everywhere, and all of us are kind of in a space. So like we hear this terminology a lot, and something that was also like a trigger and a little bit frustrating, and for me at first, because I come very traditional story, y'all know this, was so many women saying like, it'll just flow, like money will just flow to you, everything just flows, just stop trying, it's supposed to be easy, like just let it flow, let it come to you. And I'm like, bitch, I had systems in my business before money flowed. Like I had to do the masculine work first and put that stuff in place first, and now it flows. And so I really appreciate you saying that, because to anyone that's like, just, women shouldn't be trying so hard, or just, we're supposed to be in our feminine for it to work and for abundance to come to you. It's like, no, I had to set up the masculine walls of the riverbed so that the water could flow down the river, right? Mish, this one's for you, and you can take this in whatever direction you would like. Something that has come up this weekend for many of the women, to no surprise, I knew that it would. You're phenomenal with subconscious reprogramming and helping people get to the core root of beliefs and get to the core root of fear. And one of them that's come up a lot is a deep-rooted fear around visibility, a deep-rooted fear around being seen, around being heard, around expressing. And so any guidance, any advice, any thoughts that you have around how to help women with like deep-rooted fear?
Absolutely. I love speaking on this because that was my story. I was really, really afraid to put myself out there and do anything. Like this would have terrified me 10 years ago. Like, no way. And I started small. Our comfort zone, think of it as a circle, right? When we push ourselves so far outside of that comfort zone and we get hurt, then we remember, oh, don't ever cross that line. Don't do that again, right? Like it's that primal, it's like held in the limbic system, our nervous system. Like it's this primal, if you put yourself out there, then the tribe's going to ostracize you and then you're going to die. Like that's what your body, that's what your nervous system is saying. And so we have to, think from our prefrontal cortex, the pre-planning part of ourselves, and just recognize that the fear is just that limbic system. The fear is just literally, it's like the reptilian brain just trying to stay alive. We have to inform ourselves, and we have to like train our body, because our intellect can be so far ahead, but the wisdom in our cells is different. The wisdom running your heart rate is different. That's a whole nother animal, right? Like that takes acclimation. That takes a little bit of time, and that takes repetition. And that's what they mean when they say embody. That's what it is to actually embody something. So to embody a level of success is a major nervous system attunement. And putting yourself out there at first, your body may wig out a little bit. Your body may get uncomfortable. And that's good. That means that you're moving forward. That means that where you start feeling that resistance, that's the edge of your comfort zone. Hold it there. Stay there. Because the more you stay in that just little bit of uncomfort, the more you're going to get acclimated to it, the more you're going to embody it. So I started with, I know this is kind of a random thing, but I started with nail polish. I started with like crazy colors of nail polish and dressing up to go to the grocery store and like wearing high heels and whatever, because I would think to myself, I would catch my thinking in the moment. I'd be getting ready. Oh, I don't want to draw too much attention to myself. Oh, that's a trigger. Okay, so my comfort zone is small. Now I need to pick out the most outrageous outfit that's going to make me a little bit uncomfortable. And just, it's training yourself every single second of the day. Okay, I haven't said anything on this Zoom call. All right, I'm a little uncomfortable. I haven't even turned on my camera yet. Okay, well, now I have to, because I've recognized I'm at the edge of my comfort zone. Okay, now I need to push it. Now I need to push it 10 degrees further, 10 degrees further. That's how we grow our comfort zone. Sometimes it can be a shock to the nervous system when we've never done anything, and then we're suddenly launching ourselves. Like, it's like our mind launches our body up on a stage to do a thing, and then we have a bad experience, and our body's like, we'll never do that again, right? So it's we've got to train ourselves in these small moments, look for all these different opportunities, and it's also a really good opportunity to lean into affirmations. So like, I'm learning to be seen. I'm learning it's safe to be seen. There's also some things in the past that may hold us back from putting ourselves out there. Like, you know, I as a young girl, I was not really protected with a male father figure. And so for me, becoming attractive, and I was like super curvy. I was like 12 years old, but did this. And so, you know, I started thinking that being seen was a threat to my safety and a threat to my survival. So I would hide with extra weight and hide with extra clothing and hide in all these different ways and be small. So my journey was to learn to be comfortable in my own skin, to be comfortable also if there's like women wounds, right? Like, to learn to be comfortable with other women, and then taking it a step further, recognizing right where that sort of uncomfortability starts to set in, and then just hold it there. So being seen and showing up online, you can practice that in all of these different ways, right? The quickest way to move through that block is to practice it as often as you can in every single small moment, right? Any opportunity to pop into a conversation, any opportunity to put on your camera, to ask a question on a live, to share something, and then what's your self-talk afterwards? It's got to be, damn girl, you did it. Good job. That means you're really uncomfortable and you did it anyways. Good job. I'm proud of you. Oh, the thing that you said that totally didn't make any sense, I'm proud of you. You did it. Good job. None of the comments matter. And if you do a live, nothing else matters. It's you did it. Good job. I'm proud of you. Move on to the next thing. Anything for you?
Helpful? Yeah. It's good, right? Yeah. I would love to ask you a couple of things about digital ads and running ads at your genius. Something that I hear, not just from some of these women, but just being a business coach, and you hear it all the time, you see it all the time, is the glorious, well, I put $20 on the Instagram and I boosted the posts and nothing happened, so what the hell? Like, doesn't work. Can we talk about it for a minute? Like, why is this not a strategy, and what is a better strategy for people that are starting out and do not have a massive budget? Yeah, and on that, it's like Facebook is really to blame for that, because they're like, do you want to boost the post? Boost the post to get more views. So it's very confusing. So you have to look at ads as an amplifier. That's the key. So ads are going to amplify anything else, any foundation that you have. So if you don't have a solid strategy of like, what is the funnel or the customer journey or the experience that I want to take someone through from seeing my business for the very first time to becoming a sale, that is your foundation that has to be in place, and then ads can amplify. So jumping to boost a post is very random. It's like, if I really think about it, what's my intention behind that? What's my definition of success? Well, I don't really know, because it's one post, and if it gets more views, that's the best it's going to do. So without, making this an hour-long conversation, the way that I look at ads is in 3 parts. Build your audience, generate leads, convert sales. And so the first one, building an audience, can be content ads, not boosted posts, but strategic. Like, anybody can do this with $5 a day. Strategic content. And if you were to choose a video or a reel and say, if somebody didn't know who I was and they saw this would give them the clarity of the problem my business solves and who I support just through the content. And then you can use that and run an ad to that to get people to view your content and see it. But that's only a piece. Like the most success you're going to get from that is growing an audience. You still need the leads and you still need the sales. So then majority of a good ad strategy, the budget goes into generating leads, which in order to do that, you have to have a funnel, customer journey, they signing up for a lead magnet, a webinar, and then that's your success metric. How many leads am I getting? How many of those leads are converting? So first step is having what that strategy is. Like the first thing that I would do with any client, whether they're very beginning to all the way advanced, is what are those 3 core pieces of their strategy? How are we growing the audience? What's the strategic content for cold traffic who doesn't know who you are? What's the lead generation experience? And then how are we going to convert that traffic and leads into sales? And so without all of that, like, of course ads aren't going to be successful, and throwing $20 at it is going to feel like, well, did I just waste $20? I don't even know what happens. Facebook said I got 1,000 views. What does that mean? Ads are just going to amplify that foundation. So having that, and then if you have a small budget, you can put a small budget into those things, into what I call visibility ads, which is your content. And I love those because I can not be on social media and my content is reaching a bunch of people because my ads are running. That's one reason I love ads. And then lead generation. Okay, I'm getting leads into this experience and growing my email list. And it's a very intentional strategy. I don't know if you have any additional. Yeah, no, I think that's great. Yeah. Without getting into your paid programs.
Say it all away.
I gave it all away. You got to figure out how to do it. A couple more questions here, and then we're going to open it up for some questions. So give you guys a couple of seconds to think if you have any questions that you want to ask. So the first one is, you're both moms, both multiple children, and healthy relationships and empires. What is the secret to building empires, being a mom, both fit, working out, keeping healthy relationships with your partners and with your friends and with yourself? How do you guys find the balance?
That's a movie. Let me have a second to think about that.
I can do it.
I'm good, yeah.
Okay. It's messy. Like there's no perfect secret, and I really do pride myself in being really real, because I don't ever want to be up on an experience like this or on social media and be like, my life's all perfect. You know, I have a beautiful life, beautiful kids, great marriage, incredible business, and I have hard weeks, and I have hard months, and I have hard seasons, and I sometimes am not present with my kids when I want to be. I sometimes miss weeks in my workouts. Sometimes something happens in my business that I don't like. Like, that is the game. And I still show up because I understand that is the game and everything's temporary. With that said, some of my best advice around this is, one, I truly believe that everybody can have it all. That's a core value of mine, and I think everybody has a different definition of what that means. But I have always looked at my life and put it into buckets of myself, my health, my relationships, my kids, and my business, and gone, okay, what's the dream life? What are all those things? What is happening in all those areas for that to be having it all for me? And then that drives my goals and the actions I take and the habits that I have and the daily way that I show up. And I really do put intention into each of those buckets. Like, I'm very clear going into my weeks, going into my months, how I have committed to show up in each of those buckets of my life. And there's seasons. There's some seasons that my kids, we go travel for a month in the summer and I'm working 2-hour days. And then there's seasons that something happens in my business and I need to work 6-7 hour days. So it's also going to shift and change. And then the other thing is just being as present as you can. And in the very beginning, I had to build my business when my baby was napping. I had to work late at night. Like, that was the reality in the beginning. I always say you have to earn the right not to hustle. Once you get through that phase, you get to have the foundation of, okay, what does balance look like? I like to use the word harmony. So I think balance is like 50-50, and it's never 50-50. It's ebbs and flows. And being intentional and present with now I'm able to say, okay, when I'm working, I'm working. I have support with my kids. I'm all in. I'm focused on my business. When I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids. I don't have email on my phone. I don't have Slack on my phone. Frequently take social media off my phone. Like, I have hard boundaries about that because I have struggled. Like, I'm physically there, but not mentally there. And I've had to do so much work around that and so many practices of having a transition routine and getting my brain to shut off. And it is not easy. I still, every day have to be intentional with that. But I commit to my commitments. I also am present in what I'm doing as much as I can. Obviously, I mess up all the time. But if I can be present for my kids, even for a short period of time in a day, that's better than hours of being distracted. And that quality time with them and creating experiences and travel, for me, that's what it's about. Like, I want to have so many experiences with my kids and build those memories, and that's what they're going to remember. And if my kids aren't going to be like, well, my mom spent 2.5 hours with me every single day, and she was working this many hours. They're not. They don't care. They're so present themselves that they just want you in those moments.
Can you also tell them how many kids you have?
Have to.
Like, she's not talking about one here.
Yeah. I have a 4, 7, and a 9-year-old. Yeah. And we homeschool, but I have a full-time nanny.
This one I struggled with a lot in the beginning when my daughter was young, because I felt like I had to be the perfect mom all the time. At the same time, the perfect entrepreneur all the time. And these two were in direct conflict. And so I always felt this tug of war within myself. When I'm with my daughter, I should be doing all these things at work. When I'm at work, I should be with my daughter. I'm ignoring her. She's not how to replicate. You know what I mean? Like, the self-talk was just brutal. I could never win until I really got conscious to, it's really important for kids to also see model the behavior that is going to be healthy for them. So when I used to have this relationship with, like, oh, if I'm not available for her, then she's going to feel abandoned and all these things. And I had to really change my brain to, I am modeling what discipline looks like. I am modeling what healthy boundaries look like. And I used to give her access to me all the time. And I had to realize that I couldn't stay focused. She would interrupt me all the time. Like, I have to show her what healthy boundaries are. I have to model that behavior. So I would tell her, of course, this is age appropriate wherever your kids are, but, like, I'm not going to be available for the next, again, age appropriate time span, right? And then say no, have healthy boundary, and they've got to self-soothe. They've got to learn how to keep themselves occupied. That was an opportunity for her to learn skills too. So it was a process where I really had to uncouple these two things and realize it's okay for me to focus on work solely. And it's okay for me to focus on her solely. But I cannot, just like Emily said, do both at the same time. Doing both is doing nothing. It's not doing either. And I love that you said transition routine, because this is so important. And this is what really, really helps me, is having anchors to help me transition from one state to another state. So I've always worked from home. I didn't have that commute to, like, buffer the time, So I started using anchors. What are anchors? Well, scent is an anchor. A song is an anchor. For me, my office doorway, and, like, tap it on the way out. Like, that was like, when I cross this threshold, I am transitioning from one state to the other state. And how we actually install that transition is we reverse it. So I would stand on one side of the door and I would mentally think of, and I would kind of get into my masculine, like, achieving, doing the things, and then I would cross that threshold. And I would actually light incense, because to me, scent is a major anchor. So if you can light a candle, and if it's the same scent, same incense, or whatever the case may be, your body just somatically, like, remembers, that other state. Okay. So I would cross the threshold, light the incense. And I would do that every single day as a ritual, as a routine, until it started to become unconscious. So the first time we're starting a new behavior, it's conscious. We have to think about it. And then it moves into unconscious, where we just do it and it becomes natural. We like do it without thinking about it. So having that difference and creating your threshold to cross, to go from one state to another state is super, super helpful. Also, kids don't need a ton of quality time. We're actually not that important to them. Like when it comes to their, like they got other things they got to do too, right? So I just realized, okay, there's a minimum effective dose here. There is a minimum effective dose. My daughter needs eye contact for 30 minutes, talk about her day. I really got to know what she needs, what fills her cup. And I would just watch when she started to get like bored or when she wanted to like go do something else. I'm like, all right, but how much? Okay, half an hour. Okay, great. Yeah, or if it's okay, the afternoon, we have 2 hours. But really, if we're present, that's potent. And if we're doing some type of peak activity and laughing, that's what they remembered. It's like when I'm with them.
Maybe I should agree with you. One of the things that you specialize the most in, I would say, like when I think of you, I think of you as an expert, is money mindset and building wealth. And we know that with that, there's this beautiful word of abundance. And we know that abundance is in mindset, or it is a belief more than it is the actual state, I would say. And so I would love your take on how someone can live an abundant life if they don't have that abundant amount of money.
This is something I really discovered in working in third world countries and then coming back here, is seeing the difference. And I would see people's capacity for joy on the soccer field, kicking a thing of garbage around, but they're like having so much fun. And then I'd come back and I'd see people like crying in their Porsches because they don't, you know what I mean? Like it was just kind of comical to me. And I'm like, wow, we have this all backwards. We have this all upside down. Like abundance is actually just a state and it's a feeling. And we get to tap into that. You know, money does not equal abundance. It's actually, we decide. We get to decide. And sometimes our perspective gets so narrow and then we calculate things like, oh, I've got to reach this level. I've got to do this thing. I've got to have this amount. And then I can feel this, right? But when we truly understand that what we're really actually searching for in this life, through our businesses, through our goals, we're all searching for just a feeling. So when we get really conscious to that, what do we think the car is going to get me? What do I think the business is going to get me? What do I think that success and the husband, the kids, what do I think all of that is going to get me? That's what you're actually searching for. And then whatever that feeling is your measurement of abundance. And how can you tune into that in any way, shape, or form that you can? Maybe, you know, for me, I used to just go stare into a rose and I would look into it and I would just be like, wow, that is so like, it would put me in a state of awe of like, wow, that's just so like the beauty is so abundant. Like that gets me feeling fulfilled and then giving back to someone who doesn't have as much as I do. Instant abundance. I feel so happy to be able to give. So for me, abundance is having what you need, having your needs taken care of. And for most of us, our needs are taken care of. Like we're not in a survival state. Otherwise we wouldn't be at this beautiful, luxurious master survived, right? So it's a choice. And we get to feel because we control our thinking, we control our minds, we control our focus. We can step into that river of abundance and tap into it anytime we want to. It's a choice.
Beautiful. Thank you. Ladies, let's open it up for some questions. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask either Emily or Michelle?
Wow. It's like so captivating, both of you. So inspiring. Thank you so much. It's been such a treat. So I have a very loving boyfriend. Everybody here's heard about him multiple times. I love him. We're both entrepreneurs. We're both building and growing babies, all of it. What would you give? Like, what kind of advice would you give somebody like me in my position starting out? We're pre-marriage, pre-babies, but we want to grow together and like really create a sustainable foundation for ourselves as we go through our businesses and ourselves.
They need them like that.
You're never going to get it perfect. So, like, just give yourself massive permission to be messy with it, right? But some things that you can do in advance is to really understand, money is one of the major thing that people fight over, and understanding what his relationship to money is versus your relationship to money. My husband and I have two totally opposite money stories, and that has been a source of contention in our first year of marriage because we just operated so differently. And so, like, here's a really simple example. Like, I would see packages just stack up, and I'm like, what are those? He's like, oh, none of these things worked out. And I was like, well, are you going to return them? No, man, I'm going to return them. That's not worth my time. And so I was like, what? That's not worth your time. So for him, he's thinking that's not worth my time. And because he's like, anyways, but there were certain things, like misbeliefs about money is like a hole in your bucket that will just drain money. But because he had this belief about it, that it's not worth his time, I had this belief that, I honor the money that's in my bank account and I don't want to just waste it. So for me, it's always worth delegating that to someone to go take my packages back. You know what I mean? I would outsource it. But so coming down to understanding and leading with curiosity. So anytime that there's a disagreement about something, it's understanding what is the story that person is telling themselves that leads to those actions. If you can get to the belief, and if you can have a conversation around the belief, because all of our actions stem from beliefs. So if you can get to the root belief and like what his relationship is with money or time or whatever, just lead with curiosity, understand where he's coming from. And then from there, you could be like, oh, that's so fascinating because I interpret it as this. See, the thing is that we all think that the way that we interpret the world around us and situations is just the way things are. And like, how dare that person not do that? Can't they see? But we all are living our own completely different reality with our own totally different set of rules of how the world works and how people are supposed to interact with us. Like, we have these manuals for other people, and when they don't operate the way that we think that they should, that can spark an argument, right? So I like to get really clear with, my manual for you said that you take out the trash and I don't. What does your manual say? Just getting really curious. What are your unconscious rules of conduct that people don't normally talk about? It just ends up being a fight later. So I hope that's helpful.
I have a small ad. I think I would say you can never go wrong working on yourself, no matter what happens. And I have learned many, many times, and as I've gotten older, learned that it really does come back to you. Like, if you're in a hard season, and having that, like, what can I control and what can I contribute? Never stop having fun. Like, so important, especially when you have kids into the mix. And then both being entrepreneurs, finding the time to connect outside of business really through fun would be my big pieces of advice. I think the biggest one being what a beautiful experience it can be when two people work on themselves and then continue to come together in new seasons. And I've been with my husband 12 years, and it's been a lot of new versions of us coming into the relationship. And I went through a season where I really realized, like, it's easier to try and tell yourself maybe, it'd be better with someone else. Like, let me just blame XYZ problems. But you really realize what a gift it is to heal things within a relationship and continue to choose each other.
I might have a question to you. Keep it small. So I am in a season where, so I'm a service provider, esthetician, and I have hired out multiple times to find another unit, essentially, and it's not working out in the form of And I do realize that it's probably about higher on my part. It's a higher slow higher. And I thought it was higher slow, but it'll be higher. I did in both cases because the problem is I'm so good at what I do that all of my clients want to stay with me. And even if I'm like, she's less expensive than me, she has more availability than I do, they literally will go to her and then I'm going to wait 6 to 8 weeks to come back to you. And I'm like, okay, it's just not helping. And so growing my business has become a challenge because also I have made more money, but now my profit and what I bring home is so much less. And that's a huge challenge for me because I want to live a beautiful life. And I have these expectations of a lifestyle that I would like within reason. And I'm finding that I'm investing a lot of money and I'm literally listening so I can even pay myself because like right now I literally have like no money in my payroll to pay myself and my staff and operate the business, even though I'm literally probably going to break $300,000 this year. Like I can't even afford passive one-on-one business coaching. And I'm like, how is this possible? I'm making like 3 times as much money, and yet I'm like profit is zero and my income to myself.
Okay, a couple of things I would say is I think that you'll always be like the best to your clients. Like even now, I mean, people want to work with me too. And it's like, okay, well, there's a very, very high option or there's my team. Now, people who are used to working with you, that's probably going to be a hard transition. And so I guess my question, and this definitely could be a bigger conversation, but my question would be, is there a way that you keep some existing clients who love you and then bringing on team members, like you need new business to justify the team expense, and maybe like a little bit has happened, and then replacing yourself in a business, you have to define what your unique process is. Like if you were to sit down and be like, what makes you an incredible esthetician? Like what are you doing step by step interaction with the client when they come in, all those things, and then that's how you train someone. And that's something I learned from a mentor in the very beginning. Was they sat me down and they're like, look, you're not as special as you think that you are, and so let's pull out of you what you're doing that you naturally do, and then that's your process. And it's still my process today, and I actually teach it. It's the process I said today. Like it became my marketing process too. With that to say, people still want to work with me and get me, but that's a higher cost. And so I think like to-dos would be that process and how could you build that out, and then understanding your costs maybe a little bit more of like, okay, with this team that I have, how many clients and customers do I need to have for that to be at the profit margin I want it to be, and bringing in new business for those team members while you keep a roster of clients, because your longtime ones are not going to be like, yeah, sure, give me to someone new, right? You got to give the new people to, because they don't know any different.
Which she does do, but the new business has gone down. And because I am out in the community as the face, even then people are like, well, I still want to book with you. And I'm like, okay, take my face out of it.
So you sell the process. So you say, this is our proprietary process that we use at this company and my entire team is trained on it, and you get that process. Then you're not selling you anymore, you're selling the method.
Yeah. Which I also have tried. And
yeah.
I trained her for literally 6 months before I turned her loose to teach her my method. And people are still like, she's just not you. I'm like, fuck.
Well, then you got to get to the root of what does that mean? What is she doing that's different than you? Well, maybe it's also having like an ideal persona of like, who's the ideal person that I bring in that has those traits that you have, that they love, that it comes natural to them. Because people will excel if that's, you find their gifts and then you put them in that role. So it could be a part of it too. Did you have more questions? Does anyone else have another question?
At the beginning, you mentioned that a lot of times people self-sabotage their businesses because they want to do lots of big things, like little things. And I had this massive realization actually when I was coming to this retreat where I had this like
awareness about, okay, I was stopping me from really having a lot of success with my business is kind of having the shiny object syndrome, like switching my niche and being like, okay, like I really want to do this. Is I love building things. I love the strategy. I love doing something new, of launching things, and then I'm not consistent. So my question would be to you ladies is how often or how long would you stick with something to be consistent with one thing before you were to diagnose and say, hey, you know what, maybe this is not something that's working, and then you could switch to something different? How long would that process be? And when do you know, hey, this is something that I need to stick to for, I don't know, an extended amount of time? I just love the thoughts of that.
I'm going to get this to Emily, who you see a lot of people working with niches, so she's going to have more data to pull from, and then I'll love to add in.
Okay. Yeah, it's a great question because you'd think it'd be black and white, and it's not, because there's nuances to that where if you know, like, there's something foundationally wrong with this offer, with what I'm doing, then switch right away, right? But if you know I'm getting bored and this sounds like a better idea, and so I'm going to go do that thing, like, then probably don't switch. I think 6 to 12 months is how long it takes to really get something working. But you can get feedback within that time that you might be like, okay, there's a core offer problem, or there's a core problem here. So I think it's a little bit of checking in on, like, what's my reason for wanting to switch? Is it because this sounds more exciting and easier? Because we always know that's a trick. Like, nothing's going to be easier or faster. And do I, believe that that's the case, or that there's something foundationally wrong, that if I change, it's really about, I know this word is overused, but it's really about finding that, like, alignment with your ideal customer, your own gifts and superpowers, and what you're doing. And then when you have that foundation, then it's, yes, doing the boring work of really committing to that and focusing. And I think one thing you could consider when you are weighing, do I work on this other thing or do I do this thing, is what's that going to take away from? And is that a positive or a negative thing?
I get really curious to how you know it's time to start thinking about different niches. Like, what's going on right before? Are you facing resistance? Are things getting boring? Are you having a few bad clients and thinking, oh, I shouldn't do it? Like, it's all really depending on what's going on right before you start aching. And that's what I would examine, because that's kind of the path to figure out what there is to move through. And also, how you're thinking about a niche. Like, it's not this forever type of thing. And sometimes when we think of it like, oh, I've got to marry the niche, and then you're like, oh, I got to date first. I got to try a lot of niches before I, like, marry the niche, But when we realize, like, no, I just give myself full permission to try this. What helped me is, like, I'm going to make this a temporary niche. It was a little mindset shift of, like, I'm going to try this for a year and see how I like it. It's under an umbrella that I always know I'm going to be underneath, so I don't have to go, like, from one whole industry to another. But I'm going to just test drive this. And the goal in doing that was, it's not about the niche. It's about the person I become sticking to the niche. It's about the obstacles I move through, the lessons, because if we keep switching, we're blocking ourselves from actually learning the next lesson, which is, like, how to continue relationships, how to have those customers, how to move those customers through a thing. You know what I mean? It's all of the things on the other side that you could be doing as stop, start, because you're afraid of what's next. So when you shift the focus to, it's not about the niche, just pick a damn niche and stick with it so that you can get to the next step, and then the niche will come. Like, the right thing will come, but I like to say God can't steer a parked car, or a car that doesn't have any gas, like, to get anywhere. You got to take action, and then you're going to figure it out through the process. But hold yourself to something long enough to get through whatever barrier that you wouldn't have crossed before. That's usually a trigger. That's your indicator of, oh, I'm up against something here. Now I need to stick with it just so I can move through.
Not to say that this is something that you're doing, but like to overall answer that question, I think a lot of people, you guys hear me say this, like dip their toe in the water versus diving in the deep end. And so like it's radical ownership of asking yourself, am I actually all in on this? Or am I just like kind of trying it a little bit and then it doesn't work and I jump ship and then I do the same thing here and I do the same thing here and I do the same thing here and I wonder why nothing will fucking works. And it's like, are you fully in? Like, are you all in on that? Are you really trying? Are you exhausting your resources? Are you fully passionate about it? Are you going the fucking deep end? Or are you kind of like, I'll kind of try it and then I'll just blame it on the fact that it didn't work. And again, I'm not saying that is what you're doing, but that would be my 2 cents on that. We'll take one last question and then shut up. And I think we wrap it up.
My question for you guys is how to build confidence in closing a sale. So, for example, I recently launched an education business. I'm fully passionate about it. I'm all in on it. I love it so much. I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I can go into salons and talk about it for hours and go on and on and on. And I know they're in, but then when they ask me my prices, I choke. And I'm like, I don't want to tell you, so don't ask me, just pay me. That is something that I really struggle with. I'm just wondering if you have any advice on that. On how to, like, say my price confidently.
So the first sell you got to make is to sell yourself. So you've got to believe in the value that you offer. And you've got to believe that the person is not going to have the same money story as you. So I remember one person was like, how dare you assume that that person can't afford it? Like, that's rude. You're thinking that that person isn't good enough to be able to afford this? And I was like, oh, damn. This got called out. Like, yeah, you're right. Who am I to think that other people's capabilities or, you know what I mean? Like, that's such weird projection and judgment on what they can or can't do when who am I to say? But what I do know and what you know is what you offer and the value. And, you know, I talked about heart posture earlier. When you know that you can help someone and you can make a change for them and you can solve a problem for them, when you know that you can actually help them truly make a difference and move something forward that they're passionate about, and then that income that person might make can help their family or help other people, it's rude for you not to offer. So if they have an interest, then it's no longer about us, right? We have the minimum requirements of what we need for our time and our value and, you know, the things that we're putting out into the world. When you know what that number is for yourself, of like, okay, I definitely won't go below this. This feels really good to me. This feels scary to me. Have it somewhere in between that this feels really good and this feels scary. Well, right. No, and what I do, like for coaching, for example, I used to be afraid of what I charged. And then I realized I helped people avoid divorce. I helped people have babies, get married. I helped people save their businesses, 10x their businesses, have confidence, which is kind of quantifiable, right? So if I never offered that, I'm never offering them all of those results either. And so when we put our heart posture and make it about them and what we can give them, then it's something that, because really we're making it about us, right? So we got to make it about them and how to find the few character that helps. That was great.
The last thing that I'll add to that, a former mentor of mine said this to me once before, and you never ever want to think with your own wallet. So we don't price our services based on what we think someone else can afford. We price them based on what we know we are worth. And so that's where that's done in retraining. Okay. Did anyone get a little bit nervous at 2,500? So your definition and your money story is very different than everybody else at this table. And then you would pay 2,500 for something like that, but you know, how do we assume that somebody else would it? And so that comes down to you feeling so worthy of that. How do they like
feel worthy of that. Like I do, but like I know that it's worth it. All the way hard work that I put into it, hour into it, but like passions that I see the things that I need and so on, and you know, in there. But like I know.
For me, what helps me in the beginning with charging my prices, I would find a way that I would become free for them. In the sense of, oh, I'm going to save this person X amount of money, or I'm going to save this person X amount of time, or they're going to increase their value and therefore have better clients. That would give my like intellect. I'd be able to check the box of my intellect, be like, okay, I got it. Like, I'm actually free for them. Like I used to do a tiered design. I'd save them. I would calculate and okay, I just covered my costs. Like I saved them the amount. Perfect. I'm being free. So that was a way that I always kept myself in check for, am I delivering the value? Like I knew for sure I was delivering monetary value. But then I also think of all the time I would save them, all the like headache I would save them. I would think about the disasters that you could help people avoid. Like what's the cost of having a bunch of bad reviews, right? Like if you're educating a place and they're not doing things in a certain way and they get a bunch of bad reviews, that does this, does that, right? So you've got to look at everything from every single angle and really sell yourself on the value. When you're sold, and if this is like, I would list it all out and I would look at it over and over again. What is the actual value? Because sometimes it can be a little tricky because they want to be like, I'm worth it and I'm worth it. Well, of course you're worth it, but is the value there for this product that you're offering? Your value is different than the product that you're offering. And that was sometimes the trick, is that we say we make it about us when it's really about the product. And what if the product is so much more valuable, right? And we would have thought to offer, thought to put a price tag on. So like that was for me when I started realizing, oh, I'm saving people sometimes millions of dollars by avoiding a divorce. Then suddenly my price is real small, right? Because I removed it from what I thought my value was and what the value of the service, of the product, the outcome, and not just the immediate either, but that outcome over time. So sometimes that'll give you a different perspective too. But again,
Amazing. Well, ladies, thank you so very much. I got a lot of golden nuggets and wisdom tonight for sure, and we'll be sticking around a little bit to pick their brains a little longer. I know we could go for a bajillion more hours, and you would pop all night and answer each and every one of your questions, so we have to round up at some point. So thank you so very much for being here, for taking your time to come and donate your wisdom and your experiences with these ladies. Like it is so, I know every single one of them is very appreciative of it, and it's so valuable. So thank you for being here. We appreciate you so much. And just maybe one final last piece of money that you'd like to leave everybody with.
This might sound a little cliche because it is, but it's so true. And it's really not about the destination. It's really about the journey. And so it's about every single challenge that is the goal. That is part of the destination. Like that is the full purpose of the person that you're becoming as you're pursuing the thing that you're moving towards. It's more about the process of who you're becoming versus the destination of when you get there. And as long as we frame our mind that way, everything that we're moving through becomes the game. And when we can gamify it, we have a little bit more fun with it. We have a little bit more fun in our business. So that's my last diet beat.
I think going off the theme of something I said twice tonight, do it messy. and don't try to have it all figured out. Like it's just about the next step that you can take. And that has been the single biggest contributor to my success my entire life, is like, I don't have it figured out, but I'm going to figure it out. And I know what I got to do next. And so let's go. And that's it. And nobody has it figured out. Everybody you look up to is like, same thing. That's all they're doing. Just doing it messy, doing it scared, getting uncomfortable. Community, how people can get a hold of you. Yeah. Either Instagram, Emily Hirsh, Hirsh, or Embodied Marketing. And then my website's embodiedmarketing.com. And I've got a podcast that comes out twice a week.
the Embodied Marketing Podcast. I rebranded after that retreat. It's the Embodied Marketing. I used to be the Not Lazy Marketers Podcast. Then I went to the Wildwood retreat.
There was a very distinct before and after Emily. Like, it was pretty uncanny to witness. You can find me on Instagram at Michelle A. Dillard, and then online at www.alwaysabundant.com.
Ladies, thank you so very much for being here. I appreciate you.
That is all that we have for you today, Savages. Thank you for tuning into today's episode. We hope that you enjoyed this episode on the Visit Savage podcast, and we can't wait to talk to you soon.